My name is Mike Sprague. I'm the director of the Polar Initiative at the Woodrow Wilson Center. So let me tell you first, thank you for coming to this very important event. And I am honored and pleased that leadership and the elders from Newtok, Alaska, have come here to Washington, D.C. to share their story with us. Incredibly important. It's one thing for any of us to stand up and talk about issues of impacts of change throughout the world. It's something very different when the very community that is experiencing such dramatic change comes and shares their story in their voice. So thank you all for coming to this very important day. I'd like to first point out a few of the folks that have helped us put this day together. Our Woodrow Wilson Center Environmental Change and Security Program has helped sponsor this event. The Institute of the North in Anchorage, Alaska, is holding with the Anchorage Museum a listening session. So they're watching live right now, web streamed. Jack Durkee and John Tyler and our external relations team, thank you for the wonderful work that you've done putting this all together. So we're streaming globally. We're streaming to Anchorage, which last time I looked is part of the global environment. And that session in the museum is important because this message is getting back real time to Alaska. And in Alaska right now, we have Dr. Robin Bronin, Executive Director of the Alaska Institute for Justice and a Senior Research Scientist at the Institute of Arctic Biology at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, who has facilitated that group in a pre-discussion. Will be with the group the entire time, and I am one of the few that will have their cell phones on during the session because they may text us some questions for us to consider at the end of the session. So we're going to try and make this bi-coastal, literally and figuratively. Earlier today, we had an interview on the Wilson Now. So on the website, if you go to Wilson Now, you'll see an interview with Romy Cadiente at the end of the table here. A very lovely interview for about 20 minutes, further insight on the town of Newtok. So the Village of Newtok, a traditional village, Yupik village, about 400 people. It's one of over 30 villages in Alaska experiencing dramatic, threatening change. And so the story you'll hear today is of one village, but think about maybe 2 or 3 dozen other villages in Alaska experiencing the same dramatic change. It's about 100 miles west of Bethel, a few hundred miles west of Anchorage. They're experiencing change like you'll hear from flooding, permafrost erosion, storm threat. Many of the issues perhaps we've seen in the media for other parts of the region, these communities have been experiencing this kind of threat for a very long time. So in addition to permafrost degradation, just the overall environment of the Arctic obviously is changing twice as fast, is warming twice as fast as the rest of the globe. So you hear these stories today from the very people who live this. So in my words, climate change is real, it's rapid, and it's palpable. And I've used those lines many times in many different places. But today you'll hear why it's real, rapid, and palpable. Some of these individuals, their homes may be in a very different condition when they return from this very trip because the environment is not what it was before. And you'll hear these stories. So these slow-moving disasters are important to these communities because they threaten a way of life. So I welcome you all today, and I want to thank you for participating in this important discussion. The format for today, we have a panel, obviously. Each individual will take about 3 to 5 minutes. I've asked some front row commentators to take notes and then comment on the condition that is described here by those from the village, and then we'll do a question and answer. We have about an hour and a half. We'll do our very best to manage that. I do want this to be casually professional, so I would like engagement with the community members so that they can not only tell their story but respond to questions as well. So with that, let me introduce our panel. So to my left is Paul Charles. Paul is the village elder and president of Newtok Village Council. Albertina Charles is an elder and Newtok Village Corporation board member. George Carl is an elder and vice president of Newtok Village Council. And Romy Cadiente is a relocation coordinator. Jolene John will serve as our interpreter. You will hear Yupik today, and Jolene will help us to understand what it is that our elders are saying, and then perhaps interpret back questions when needed. So Jolene, thank you for doing this. I asked several folks to comment, so I will introduce them, and maybe they will just stand up and wave to you so that you know who they are after the presentations. Sherry Goodman. Sherry's in the front row. Sherry is a global fellow here at the Woodrow Wilson Center. She's the former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Environmental Security. Joel Neumeier is the federal co-chair of the Denali Commission. Jimmy Charles is a Newtok Native Corporation. Marla Fairbanks is with the Newtok Native Corporation. And Mike Wallery, who's the village attorney. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to your comments. With that, I would like to turn the floor now over to our first commentator, Mr. Paul Charles.
I'm going to speak in my Yupik language, so I'll have a Julian what I have to say. Jioklilugu manna upangnaklput mattumun khatta puklinun qaillun mattum nunam qainganun taringis qumaayaqlugu maakun qanlumtun taak taringumaangailkiikut maakun uhhuntagam tarnaqatkun anika imutuntal qanlqatalikaayiqulukutal tanghumaatiqqi taima taattaaqutaima yaqlim taum qanumtiksiqqi.
President Paul Charles would like to share that first they will talk about the relocation efforts and how it is associated with the climate change and the temperature warming out in their community. That's what he would like you to understand during this time. But furthermore, he'd encourage you to look at the pictures that you see in front of you to further demonstrate and visually see and observe what is going on within their community.
Charlie, manna upangnaqlumtatkaattua euqutja manna kiikangnaqsalla tapernaqluni maai mattumnarliini Charlie mattumhatta climate change peakutvuangkutalu
The relocation effort has not been very easy, especially the portion of trying to raise sufficient funds to make it happen. And in regards to today's financial economic status, it's even more complicated for them. With the climate change taking place, and especially impacting their community today, they are working very hard to make it happen.
Taringnanaqluguani qanumsitsiqamsi ukun upangnaquutim ta relocation am ta tungiinun oktunqanqtalla tinguumatiqanqatalukut taringifqangnaqlukillpnun alpsniin maavutlutalunam qainganun.
They will attempt to be as descriptive as they can with the experience they face today, and for his peers and colleagues, the leadership and elders, encouraging them to speak of the same to you today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, would like to open the floor to Albertina Charles.
Huingakhwani nuna potkhwani umyaqtqlumkun patartuutuyaqaqatawam khwani ikaayungtarturtukutukangnaqlutapiyaaqngamta nuna potkhwani kha uksaarmiuatn mallilartuq permafrost taqluam llaquuruguluni permafrost taqurugaqaami nanvauqtaqluni atjaalluartusti kisartlrimartuyuinaku nattanqartuq amaani piuimtni atjaatikuyurulluni taum illaak umlalangaan chalikhwani amllarqunak tarpallqnak taumilluanun akkillruyaaqlutang chalitaimatamaaraqlutang taumatjaan nammat takhoni nan vauhluni wani gatali nittanqluni tali nunaamunnartuusingalraanak tamakunak tali pangartutunga naitatjiit ururturluki nan vauhtukluki tali
Albertina Charles would like to share that within their community, the leadership, both from the tribal council as well as the village corporation, are both working hard in a hurry to try and help the community. They need all the help that they can get. As an example, during the fall season, the water levels rise so high that they are reaching community buildings, and the permafrost on top of that is melting underneath, the water surfaces are rising up on the top. As a result, lakes are forming, and within those lakes it's like sinkholes that you cannot reach the bottom when you step into them. To demonstrate, there's a building in the community. There is water underneath the entire foundation of it, and that water no longer freezes with the climate change. Regardless of any renovation efforts that they have put into it, any work that they've done somehow diminishes into the water and it breaks away. There are some homes in their community that have sunken so low that they've reached the ground level. They're at the tundra level. And then you wonder about the condition of their foundation, whether they're rotting away.
Talihoni tiulirnram alhagni pilhuyaaqanga ampi nunaamun upasqalla nunaavut ingna uruhturluni kittarkaornilukun natlutamakutilaqluki kittingarkaorniluki ampi natmun nunaamun upasqsaaqlraanga taugamutoi totnaarioratuungerma utaaqaortootoo uparivillerkamtnun.
This summer, she was spoken to by an elder in the community, urging her to hurry up and move to the new location. She was told that eventually all the homes and other buildings are going to begin to sink underground. She's been extremely nervous about this situation, but she's been trying to be patient about relocating to the new site.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Mr. George Carl.
Let me see. Let me thank you, all of you, for having us. It truly, this is really truly a thank you from my heart and in behalf of my village. And let me start with what I experienced in my own language, in my native language. Chiumakwani unawani chiumak daringilukumai nit khalqamatuhun global warming. Tao na global warming aka pichiulu ni kaniksak chikuklu urusakun tamay global warming ako na pichiul ha daringiluku kingukleka climate change pichiulu ni jali maayawang kudani utakamiw ni atokoluku igam kun sutanga bagaluku manna nunak chimilha nangisha matuhun sujalia permafrost out hatal tamay jali daringiluku usqwal hakun una sujalia Unajali matuma puksi unawani witawi put puksam ktawa muta kalaguluni matumakkanuqwa makwalluqa ibisumakka uta kalagufknani puksi una 33 temperature qatkitaqakutamaya unawani usqasha ayagan ngaqluni makunik sarsungu taqalraarufknaani temperature tawamunatkiitaqaku 33 paggaatmuna ustngaqluni unasutali permafrost ausinisqatalinunaavat awaknaayagamak nasulsqaamt huutiuqlim taasu nasulsqaamagtua wanihtoaya qartulluyaaqlera awaania una nunakkiullatniu malrukuyuk taugaamukukka uma nunakkiurlapputtaukku kakkapiunrillruluutukka kinkuutiiklukasaatunnaasuuluk ka atrak taasumai mattum nassinia unawani nunaavut taugutunayuqqinrirluni aayaarluurluni tjalissua nalliqaatalleraani laayunnayunnaani laagaayunnaunani tauna laguluten pikuuvut tauna urullratukaasukupitiiqqan toaisua taunatsalli laakkasrukuvugu mai tikkuulratamaana ahkutiuqlim taatullraamugtu naasuulukullagulutunga laakkaqalukutamaana pilratammaaya alaarutngoaqluni daga tikkuullinnaami mai nasuneraamtua nunaakstaini nalliqaataleraana lasqumafknaakukhuttaa toatnaapeaqluta angturriinarteqngan taunaas lasrat talisuu ahkutsalaawaaya tiuqlimta manna permafrost aullrannaasuulukua makuunakka tainkaasqanakka atoqulutunga tamana tammai uqullera kuimtatungiinunna kuigaalilukua pilassrullerita manna permafrostarnaasuuluk wanihtoaya igam kunni uhtaqamiuni tooni liiqqaasamnia kuiktaangartiigatsraaqa kuiklua qaisun tangasrkaattua tammaakinnuunamnak yaaqsigiluni maisuttoia tamaanakuikka nammanak qaisun taima amsernernik taima qaftinik taima tootn pitaariluni yaaqsigtatsaa waniga taarnerammuuma apartusingaluta taukuttua ilaklootsalia nikka ihtarkaortlranunaavutlutsali mikleriluni yaakantoi southenda northenda paklutna tuqskuvu wannaurnaafknakuiqqaatkiitsiiqluku paklutn tammiihkanka taktatsaa iqtutaatsaassu wanihtoia arnqeasugluta mattuumukka tohikaajorkamtnuguan igaajoortoqulutatsali unawani nunaavut nanqattaan.
Vice President George Carl would like to share his thanks. But first he wants you to understand that in the past, as he was younger, that he was told about global warming events that may happen. Back then he didn't realize what they were talking about. But now that he sees what is going on in his community today, there is very little snowfall, and water no longer ices over. Everything is melting. Another area that he realizes now is that he recognizes climate change. It's really happening in their community, and it's very true. Newtok is experiencing it. He has witnessed through his own eyes all the changes that have been occurring over the decades. Another important issue is the fact that permafrost in their community has caused a lot of erosion due to the warming of the weather. As temperature rises, erosion is occurring fast in their community. It's not rain or other things or the wind that's taking place. It's really the temperature that triggers erosion activity. He mentioned that when it reaches 33 degrees and higher, that's when you see an influx of their land going into the river. And the permafrost, as the two elders in the past it's known that there are two elders in the past that selected their current site in Newtok, where they live now, because back then the land used to be high and solid. They were not unaware that there was permafrost that existed underneath and what impact it would cause for their community. But those two elders have since passed. He doesn't know what their names are. But over the years, their land has definitely changed. Now it's all marshy and soggy, and the land is much lower in elevation than it used to be. As they work with homeowners today, they let them know immediately it is not ideal to dig into the tundra, as it will eventually increase the permafrost melting rate. So it would be a mistake to do so. Home builders are now discouraged to make any impact to the surface. Also, many years ago, they used to use old drums to somehow create little streams. Little did they know that that too is also increasing the rate of their land loss. In his younger years, where he stood in the community, he would look miles and miles away, but he would never see the river's edge. Today, if you look out, his home really is just a few steps away, the Ninglick River edge. And for you to really understand, one of these images will show you how close the homes are to the river. One of them happens to belong to him. Also, considering all the land loss that has been taking place all around their land, in the past you could walk distances, but now, looking at the diameter and the length and the width of where they are now, you could literally walk from one end to the other in less than an hour. So, as you can see, with all that's going on, they're working hard to see how they can seek financial help for you to help them address this issue.
Thank you. Our final panelist is Mr. Romy Cadiente. Romy, I think this will be a tag team here while I try to work your PowerPoint. Jack, I think we have to switch from the rotating slides to Romy's PowerPoint. While Jack is doing that, maybe I can ask a question of the Vice President. Here on the stage, in my mind, represents your village. How far from this stage to the back of the room would I find your river?
Translate na una khani jiq apiuti au kuna kaisuniak siktasha wa kunwani hakumgawi minka tauna janiksin kukachaki tauna ingna anyakak Tipparluku puknernak amsernernak taat niaqsigtaaluuni.
His response would be to, if you say where he is seated, the river's edge is just past that entrance over there.
And Mr. President, how far is your fresh water from where I am sitting relative to the rest of the room?
Yaaqsinritor mai aukunanannamartaim ustqatartakiingallameqqluku amaatalla aukkut aulukstam tataltaim airportamani mangaliini taimuittaartamarkarput yaaqsinritor taima aukutun talawa tam yaaqsigtangatoqalla taani imalluuluuni alaarsukuma ukkuk akituksiskitga.
Their watering source right now is a freshwater lake, which in itself is at risk of washing away with the river. And in terms of how far it is away from here to the erosion edge, he said it's closer inward from where the exit is, and they're thinking of possibly building another water source that will be needed once that erodes away.
Thank you. Romy, I have before me your script and your slides. Would you like me to go through the first of what I think are 4 in a row?
Sure.
Okay, just quickly, or would you like to comment on them?
Yeah.
You want me to comment or just go through them quickly?
Just go through them.
Okay. Okay, that's slide 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. These are some of the faces that make up the 400 native Yupik residents of the Village of Newtok. My name is Romy Cadiente. I am the Tribal Relocation Coordinator for the Mertarvik project. Situated southwest of Alaska, Newtok is located about 100 miles west of Bethel, near the Nelson Island, where we share the same traditional subsistence hunting fishing grounds as our neighbors just to the south, Tuksuk, Tununuk, and Nightmute. At first, when you disembark from either a 6-passenger or an 8-passenger aircraft, you will notice there are no cars there, no roads. Our primary method of transportation is actually by ATV on a boardwalk system that is simply made by 2x6 lumber, about 8 foot wide, stretched through the village, or in the wintertime by snowmobile. Additionally, a relatively new service since 2008 are the cell phones. While still in the upgraded stages, for now, if your carrier is not GCI, using a GSM network, you will find that your cell phone service will not work. Alternately, many villages who are situated on the western coast regions of Alaska have experiencing the same number of dramatic changes as us. Recently, large chunks of the bank broke into the river because of unusually heavy storm patterns.
Romy, may I interrupt you? I know you wanted to show a couple of MP3 clips.
Yes.
Maybe Jack can just show those 3 in a row.
Yes,
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jack. I think That was the first one? Okay, there's another one coming.
We actually felt that when it broke off of the river that night.
Is that the last of them?
Mhm.
And is this, let's see, and is that the photo you would like next?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But to illustrate the severe erosion rate, in 2016, the village annual allotted for heating fuel, which is about $7.96 a gallon, and the regular fuel for like ATV boats, boat engines, etc., that cost about $7.65 a gallon, arrived in or about in July. These pipes feed the village's holding tank.
So where am I, Romy?
Right there.
Okay.
Those are the pipes. By midsummer, and by late fall. Since the article was published in the ADN August 29, 2015, entitled The Creeps of Climate Change, where there only were 50 steps from the eroded bank to my good friend Nathan Thompson's, now it is just 35 steps. 35 steps. His grandma's home would have fallen in the river. Equally as disturbing, in less than 20 steps, Newtok will lose the village's water source. But flooding is becoming more of a dangerous issue to the health and well-being of our residents. But the bigger picture, the bigger problem, as you can see, when it floods, the water gets into the resident's home, and then it waterlogs the floor. Now, under the home, where it remains damp and cool, this becomes a perfect breeding ground for black mold, which is why Newtok has the highest incidence of influenza and respiratory ailments. But even as deeply troubling is the reality of this location. Or having your village being labeled as a non-sustainable community, where residents would have to abandon the place where they live for hundreds of years into a safer, established community far, far, far away. Because the community cannot sustain its basic infrastructure for occupation. The idea of possibly losing their culture, their language, their heritage, and identity motivated the Newtok Village Council, the Newtok Native Corporation's leadership, and Mr. Mike Wallery. Mr. Mike, with our project management team, Randy Romanesco and Allison Spadford, along with the village leadership, began to strategize a phased approach on how to move the residents to a new village of Mertarvik. About a year and a half ago, with our project team and Mr. Wallery by our side, we sought the advice of Alaska delegation, the Honorable Dan Sullivan, from the Honorable Don Young's office, Mr. Chad Paget, and the Honorable Lisa Murkowski, along with federal and state partners agencies, about a bold and audacious plan to relocate the Newtok residents into the new village of Mertarvik. Our hopes were to provide a safe and healthy environment for the community and to leave a much better place for future generations than what we currently have now. In addition, if the Mertarvik project was successful, we hope to share our successes and failures with other communities so the wheel wouldn't have to be reinvented. We also hope that our experiences could provide a baseline footprint for other villages with relocation aspirations. On May 31st, 2017, after their long voyage from Anchorage, the first barge carrying heavy equipment supplies arrived at Mertarvik, where our roads contractor eagerly awaits the start of the Mertarvik roads construction. Soon after, followed by the second barge carrying fuel, additional supplies for the long work ahead. But before these barges arrived, Mr. Joe Long and Troy Welch and about 10 of our Newtok residents had already begun the hard work of establishing a man camp that now has the capacity of housing 30 of our workers, local workers, and our guests. With the construction of the man camp underway, Mr. Joe and Mr. Troy understood certain amenities were very important in order for the team to remain energetic for the long season ahead. We are so very grateful for the Mertarvik's first water pump that was donated and installed by the Fairbanks Lions Club and Mr. John Duvenbach on the left. This pioneer watering point will provide fresh spring water to the man camp, future homes, and one day the Mertarvik Evacuation Center. Now, within the man camp, Mertarvik has running water. And this is very significant because the only place in Newtok with running water is a local watering point, which we call the PHS facility, and the school for 400 people. With the running water, crews are now able to take hot showers, and honey buckets are no more. A pair of commercial washers and dryers were also installed for the staff's use. A 125 kilowatt generator that provides uninterrupted power to the pioneer community and 3 existing homes. A dining facility with local staff that provides hot meals to the employees and a place where they can relax, catch the latest football game. And by the way, I hear the cooks make a delicious bread over there. Upon deploying essential equipment to produce 4-inch minus rock and 1-inch minus rock from the quarry, the start of BIA Route 0160 had begun. The onset of this main artery was imperative to the project because in the preceding years, it would serve as the lifeline to the community's dreams. After a few months had passed, amidst equipment's challenges and weather, the road crew managed to push the 1-mile mark towards the community. During this time, another much anticipated barge of lumber and supplies had just passed Tuksuk and was heading for its final destination, Mertarvik.
Am I on track?
uh, hold, one before, but.
Right
okay.
there?
The entire procurement process was accomplished by past working sessions by Mr. Mark Charlie with AVCP Housing and their staff, Mr. Bill Zakaris and the staff at HUD. Again, what the road crew had done prior, the Newtok Village Council's leadership began the application project so their residents could take advantage of the on-the-job training that would make that individual highly marketable outside of their region once the project was completed. Jobs in construction, electrical, plumbing, heavy equipment, camp cooks and maintenance, and laborers were all offered. Mr. Paul Charles, the president of the Newtok Village Council, wanted their village to build their village. On June 27, 2017, materials to construct four-bedroom homes had finally landed at Mertarvik. The local build crew, already dispatched to the shores of the Mertarvik, had begun the arduous task of staging and organizing materials for this immense project. Shortly after the organization components to the four structures, Mr. Don Morgan, AVCP's lead foreman, was ready to set the foundation of the homes.
And I think here we have another MP3.
No whiskey drinking, no pot smoking, stuff like that. You know, but they're real good. I'll make sure that Don gets it set.
And like he and the resident crew he has worked with for the past 20 years around rural Alaska, the pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. All the while teaching our residents the craft that was passed down through him. On or about the ending of September, after working 7 days a week for the past months, the last nail was driven into that home. Don and his crew had completed the task of shelling 4 homes, and they were set to return next spring to finish the interior of the homes, so more residents could hopefully occupy this chapter of the Pioneer Village construction. This would engage other federal agencies having met the requirements and the school district. The requirements were 25 kids living full-time at Mertarvik. With any kind of luck, we would hopefully have another barge waiting for the next phase next fall. But for the guys at HC and our road crew, it was the fourth quarter for them. By this time, Newtok's closest home was getting a lot closer to the bank. And Joe had a lot on his shoulders trying to make the final push to complete the project goal for this year. Now past the 1.25 miles, success was in their grasp. On October 3rd, while in a steering committee meeting, construction meeting in Anchorage, we received a text from the road crew that simply said, "We are connected." The road from the quarry BIA 0160 was now connected to the village. A huge accomplishment because next year in 2018, there would be a direct access from the quarry where we'd be able to deliver gravel to start the building of the roads in the new village. Planning for this road system for construction in 2018 is now underway.
So I think here, Romy, do we have another video clip?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it that? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's a movie, we can play that.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way,
There's somebody
there was
walking
another
around.
reason why we needed to finish that DIA 0160.
Oh, there's the airport. Where's the airport?
On October 23rd, 2017, at approximately 2:45 in the afternoon.
Personal plane.
In closing, this year has been a challenging one for the team's relocation effort, filled with a lot of highs and lows from all aspects of the emotional and physical spectrum. But if there is one thing that the community of Newtok can take away from this year's experience, is that our Alaska delegation, the federal and state agencies, were fighting equally as hard right beside us. They understood any project construction of this magnitude can be very involved and perplexing. But they heard us, and they offered options, technical assistance, when we simply asked. They were aware of the impacts climate is taking on an ever-growing list of Alaskan villages in dangers, and are working relentlessly to find results. Ideally, if the streamline of environmental impact statements and the language to support slow-moving disasters could be implemented, other villages whose banks are even closer than ours could avoid the dislocation fears. But for the sake of the residents in the communities who are scared and worried about what will happen to my community home when it falls in the ocean or river, we hope we have proven not to ever give up, because the people who I have just mentioned never gave up on us. Thank you all so very much.
All, would you please thank our panel? It kind of falls short to call it a panel. I want to thank you for sharing your life with us. And Jolene, John, thank you so much for bridging the gap between what would have been, but you provided for us a rich context by allowing the very words of those impacted here today to carry forward to us so that we can understand better. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. We have with us several individuals I've asked to give some comments about what we've heard today, or just their perspective on the issue with Newtok and elsewhere in Alaska. They all knew that at one point I would call on them, so they're sort of prepared. But let me call on the first person who will be sort of prepared, and that will be Marla Fairbanks. So Marla, this is a time to sort of get prepared. And let me ask Marla just to give her thoughts, her perceptions of what's happening in Newtok and perhaps elsewhere in Alaska related to this issue. Would that be okay? Okay, and we have a microphone coming down here on your left, my right. Yes, you can stand, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I think I'll speak English instead. My first thought for this is what we're trying to do and trying to get assistance from anybody, not just from our like Senate and governor. We're doing this, we're trying to do this for our children and their children, not just for us, not just for these people who are on the panel. Like, I always bring this up whenever I talk to people. Like, one of our respected elder, our late respected elder used to tell us when we get into a meeting, and he used to be our advisor with our previous corporation board members. He always would remind us, you do not do it for yourself, but for your children and their children, and try not to make a mistake. But with this problem we have right now, you see that right now, it's like an island, and so around us it's mainly water. There's a lot of ponds around our village, and at this time of the year, it's if you were living or if you were there weathered in at this time of the year, you probably would panic, or you would wanna, I have to leave right now, something like that. But we need a lot of like help from anybody to move the village. Our children, like, I work for the school as a secretary, and each morning our students are gathered in the gym. They're given words of wisdom each morning, but here's one of the things that they don't know: erosion and what's going on right now. And sometimes I panic for them in case we get into situation we can't do nothing about. So una yuhtan biklako mannakwani pik ngabut kani tukang naku lukuping naksaka putagam jali kayo yugluta amslakmak nani kolak tukut kani mannakwani fall time aktikita kamtko tapak nak lakwani asikugatan ilini 1 week kakluni or more than 1 week la asikukluni anu nga kan sutsali Kaya kanakluni wadn adamakan rodakluta satsumi ko kaskluko timilkan nakuntam timilkan makwani mayuktik niluko pingaus kluta tamanatlu may manat kita kan inaktakam ta anuklisiyaga kan ilait ni kawak pugnata maksumi kukluko tikit ayukluko ayukin ritok unakwani ihkogalga tamay narsay tamilutali makmayo kakluni wadn ulak pagakan.
Marla Fairbanks with the Newtok Native Corporation wanted to add that they are working hurriedly and in a rush to try and find ways to help the community in its relocation efforts. They really do need a lot of help in this endeavor. There are times that they become extremely anxious, especially during the fall time when the weather becomes harsh. There will be times when they face bad weather days beyond 1 week. This could mean not getting any air service at all. The wind conditions can be extremely hard as well. Her father is always reminding them to always watch the weather and to understand and know where the wind is blowing from. They always have to be ready for the time when the wind direction changes, because that would mean the water levels will rise and reach the community and the homes from different angles. When the weather is bad during bedtime, people actually don't sleep because they are on weather watch. There will be erosion activity from the south, and on the north side, the water levels will rise and flood the homes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask Jimmy Charles for some of his thoughts and reflection. And Jimmy is also a member of the Newtok Native Corporation. And maybe we can get a microphone. Thank you so much.
Jolina, yuxtunna qanxtuqla bitiq. When ukutta, if you can see these pictures over here, could you hold this picture for a minute? You know, when I was growing up, the land used to be way out here somewhere. And you see this river? Whenever the tide, or whenever we had high tides, it never really covered this area. But the last few years, it's beginning to cover this whole area. Back then when we had these lands, even with these real big south winds, they never really covered the area. And before this became part of the river, it was another different river, and it's a lot deeper. And they had no other places to dump the human race but into the river. Now this is broken apart, and the flow of the current on this river is not strong. And as a result, this river is shallow. Over probably the last 8 years, 10 years, when the wind starts blowing from north, we see the kids get sick a lot. It depends where the river is flowing from. And if the winds are coming from here, I'm not too concerned, because it won't flood that bad. But if the wind shifts from this direction, it'll flood this area, a lot of it. It reached my house. I'm over here. It's the month of September to November that you live in anxiety. You watch the weather. It's constant. We have to watch the weather, otherwise, if we get caught, if we're not paying attention, if the winds change direction. We had that happen last year. The wind changed direction quickly, was blowing over here, and within probably 10 minutes it changed and water came in. Part of the reason why I got into Newtok Corporation Board and work with these guys is because I'm hoping the relocation process would move a little faster, and for the sake of the health of the people. Every spring and during in summertime, the kids start having respiratory problems as soon as the winds start changing to the north, because we don't have any running water, or we have to haul in our water. If we can get those simple things like running water, toilets, sinks, showers, laundries in that new site, it would be wonderful. Right now, with washing the clothes, some of the people, when they wash their clothes, they use that water probably 3 times to wash the clothes, take them out, put another bunch, take them out, put another bunch. I don't want to see that anymore. I want them to be able to use cleaner water, just make. You guys get my point? Are you guys getting my point? Relocation is important to us for our health, for our kids, and for the well-being for our community. Thank you.
I think you made your point incredibly well, Jimmy. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to call on Sherry Goodman for a few comments, and then after Sherry, perhaps Mike Wallery, and then Joel, and then we'll open up for some questions from the audience here and also from Anchorage. Sherry?
Okay, thank you. I'm Sherry Goodman. I'm here at the Wilson Center with Mike, and very privileged and humbled to be with you all today. And thank you for making the very long journey to come here and to share your story and your life with us. I have once flown as many flights as I understand many of you flew to get here today, and I know that it's a very, very long journey. And it's, I think, obvious to all of us that you are the front line of climate change. I mean, this is where it's really happening. You are, and now we all get to be an eyewitness to this history that is occurring here in our lifetime. So it's clearly not a hoax. And it's not perpetrated by the Chinese either. Climate change is a humanitarian and health crisis in our own country. This is what you have shared with us today. And I mean, that as an American, it just is painful to hear that. Being the child of Holocaust refugees myself, I grew up believing that we always have to protect the next generation and enable us to never forget and never again. And now, we see that here we have our own challenges. You were really our first wave of climate migration in our own country. And so I hope that we will all take these lessons back. Those of us living here in this area or other parts of the U.S., share them widely and enable us to help those in need. And thank you. I want to just thank you for sharing your own story, and I feel very moved. I hope that we can find some ways to enable not only those who are already helping you, but others more broadly to help you and to help you be able to share and tell your story so that we can enable a better future for you and for your people. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Joel, would you mind a few comments, but maybe I can ask a question with your few comments, and that is, I'm struck by the fact that we have 4 homes going in the new village, but my understanding is we need about 100 more to take care of the entire population. So if I can put you on the spot about sort of the housing situation, the dynamics about that, and what's the plan beyond just 4 homes in the near future? Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Mike. Joel Niemeyer, I'm the federal co-chair for the Denali Commission. I'm going to depart from your question and come back to it. Like Romy, I want to acknowledge and thank others who have been leaning forward. In particular, I want to acknowledge Department of Defense and Defense Logistics Agency. These two federal agencies have identified a potential housing opportunity for the community. Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson on Anchorage. They have some barracks which are no longer used, so just think of a bunch of soldiers who've been staying in it for 10, 15 years, what those barracks may look like. They actually are in very good shape, and as the community has told me, those barracks are better than any house in Newtok. So one of the plans is to refurbish those barracks in Anchorage, ship them out to Newtok, and install them. So the importance of housing is that many agencies, because of their own regulations, their policies, their statute, are unable to invest in the development of Mertarvik. They ask the question, where are the people, where are the houses? We can't invest. So it's critical that we've got a mass of housing out there so we can communicate to the other agencies, this is a real community. At present, I think there are 11, this upcoming summer, there'll be 11 residences in Mertarvik, and we believe that there needs to be more. So the community has accepted the idea of moving the J-Bear barracks out to Newtok. The estimate is the cost of that will be half of building a new home in Mertarvik. So again, to the point of acknowledging and thanking folks, I want to acknowledge two of my commissioners, Commissioner Julie Kitka with Alaska Federation of Natives and Commissioner Kathy Wasserman of the Alaska Municipal League. When we were given this assignment over 2 years ago, it was made very clear the Denali Commission was a coordinating agency. We are not an implementing agency. In other words, in the case of Newtok, we have provided seed funding for community planning, designs, project management, so essentially soft costs, not implementing, not real tangible capital. These two commissioners, which I've just noted, they recommended we depart from that. And so with our proposed FY 2018 work plan that was approved in September 11th, they pulled aside $1.5 million for other purposes and said it's dedicated to Mertarvik housing development. Post that, I challenged my staff. We have, like all federal agencies, at the end of the fiscal year, you have funds that are available. You have your administrative funds, which you may not have expended fully. You have projects that came in under budget. And so we were able to identify $2 million. And again, with my commissioner's blessing, they have assigned that $2 million to Mertarvik housing development. I was very proud that 2 weeks ago, I was able to send a letter to Paul informing him of this development. Now, the important thing about the $3.5 million is this. It will require a cost share match of 20%. So my hope is the state of Alaska, philanthropic groups, others will come forward with that required 20%, because otherwise we can't use it. So a vast majority of the funds are available now to start the refurbishment of the J-Bear barracks, then to ship this summer, and then we can move forward. So we're looking forward to that cost share match. But more importantly, what we believe is once these housing units get to Mertarvik, we're talking about 13 plus 11, you're at 24. All of a sudden, you have a real housing mass. You can start moving people to Mertarvik, and then we can tell the other agencies that provide utilities, airports, schools, so on and so forth, that now it's time to invest. So my message is twofold. Good things are happening in Mertarvik in 2017 and now in 18, and they still need help. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Joel. And perhaps I'll ask Mike Wallery now, the village attorney, for his comments and thoughts, and then we'll turn it to the audience for questions. And I think we've made the executive decision that we're going to go at least 15 minutes over to about 2:40, 2:45.
Thank you. I think the pictures are very important because they are, I think it's pretty straightforward that there's a disaster going on in Newtok. In fact, There have been 7 major disasters declared in the area in which Newtok is located. Of those 7, not one single dollar of individual assistance was ever provided to anybody for damage to homes and property in Newtok. Not one penny. When the Obama administration, at the end of the Obama administration, they were shocked, and Romy went to D.C. and actually met in the White House. They were actually shocked to see the pictures of the water that close. And they said, our plan's not going to work. You don't have time to apply for grants and the like. And so there was a discussion to actually have, for the first time, a tribal disaster declaration requested by Newtok. It was actually requested from the White House. We submitted it, and unfortunately, nobody in the White House left any notes saying that it's supposed to be approved. The net result was that that this type of disaster, these slow-moving disasters, are not what FEMA normally deals with. And so consequently, the tribal disaster was denied, request was denied. One of the things that's going on right now, there are disasters going on that at least our federal government understands and has policies for. They know what to do with a hurricane. They know what to do with an earthquake. But at the current time, there is no national policy on how to deal with disasters like this. There's bills going through through Congress right now, H.R. 4460, that actually addresses the issue, that actually attempts to reform disaster policy. But as with every amendment to the Stafford Act, they're always looking at how to fix the problem from the last disaster, not the next disaster. What you're looking at here is the next disaster. And nobody is proposing legislation at the current time. We have hopes that the Alaska delegation will come forward, and we're optimistic. We've had discussions with them. There is a need to recognize that these types of slow-moving disasters are real, they're happening, and they are destroying property, they are making children sick, and they have to be addressed. Our hope is that people will support, when the Alaska delegation comes forward with an amendment, our hope is that people will support it and understand. The reason I say we hope is this. The vast majority of Americans believe in climate change. An even larger majority of Americans don't think it'll ever affect them. Until people understand that it is affecting people, we will not have a resolution to the issue. Our hope is that through this presentation, you understand that it is real, it is affecting people, and that it matters that we address it as what it is, disasters. They're just slow moving. I like to say the problem is the disasters are slow moving, but the federal bureaucracy a little bit slower moving.
Thank you, Mike. Let me now open it up for questions. I see one on my right. We'll wait for the microphones. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Vice President Carl for your speaking from your heart, and to say that the comments back are from the heart. And I'd like to say just my own background. I was on the U.S. Gulf after the spill where the president did not invoke the Stafford Act, and also wrote a oral history book. It was translated into Navajo and Hopi on relocation of traditional Navajo sheep herders from their lands, and they lost their sheep and were relocated into homes from Hogans, and they said they lost their bank because sheep were their bank, and they were trying very hard to maintain their culture in the context of the move. My question is this, in the context, two questions. One, in the context of the relocation itself, what is the fishing, hunting, whaling? I mean, what is the relationship between the new community and where you were or are before? And the second question is, beyond FEMA, within the federal agencies, what exists or doesn't exist in terms of their authorities to respond either before, during, or after, and also with respect to FEMA? So what kind of regulatory gaps are there that need to be addressed? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina.
I'm going to get more question.
Unachiqliq quyawikluku Vice President taq qanllqpkun qanllqpanittuai pipigluten lliniitllhuaten chalillu lli maktaalillhuuq awkuthuani inqilit ungungsinakaulukiitulit upagtllhatpitkluku qaillunllu nunnaulhat ассиирутл кингоокун чиуклек хуанихуа аппиутти хуанихуа нунафтсниуиттаутиниухтарами упааккатарлуутииллумартарвигмун qaillun jangalkhua khualluqaayuuqqa manna nerangneqsaraati neqsulti talillungsinak unaangnaqlti tamaanaqqaatimirtuq khualluqaayuuqti
Qanrearam tunna taunakkiuluku appiutti panannerangnaaqlput mattuutstun nunarpatstunaayuuqnerituq manna sattaangerluku una iraallequat pitaaraaqan neqqaaputiimiittuuq attauutiurlainarpukunani uaniwanigga no ukukkuani upagivihkaput unaalluuviitauikka kuigtaanqert akuullenqertoqqa kuigimak uavattuani nutaaraamanna upaakuma nerearaaqammanatimirtiqluni ma unagguani uitauikka taimataanqsaillungarput nikmattuumuk neqnigaayuuqnerluunik neqtaanqertoqqa ungungsaaraat ayuuqnerlungu taammellerlutang unaalluupagavihkaput ingeriungaami kuigtaanqerngaallu akuulaput mannanerearaaput taatimirtiqluni imuumuktaaya kuigputtuna aarenairut nertirlukuttuguam nuttaanaarenairuskanna aqavirluku neqqaarmutnekka tammaakkinna pisuuqarkauluta unaallu ingeriq uuttunna uanigauitamut uitawi stunaayuuqknaani kiingataugamahkunekka neqnikpitanqersaaqluni taugaama uuttun uitawim stunaayuuqknaani unawaniuitawigput manigtsnaani neqataayuuqknaatan kuigaarenik kuigenik nannavattaamaakutta neqqaitnik kuigaarenik anleraanik pisuquluta uksuarmigaayagineqluta uksuumiillu tammaakina neqnqaqluta алааниллу куигнакка куввиирралута таммаи неққпут аюуқфкнааттангу унуани тими уангхамниттуатимиртеқлуни уна аюуқнери аюуқнертеқлутук маннаанериарааппут упааккум таттаугаама унаккуик аарнаирут қаппиаққартаугааммақавиқалуку неқкамтникка таммаи пиуккамтикка аққфатаркаулута.
Vice President Carl would answer your first question on subsistence and the efforts to bring food at the table. the way of their living is unlike how you exercise your daily food needs here in the urban settings. And their food cycles are dependent on the weather and the time of the year. It's never the same, and it's always changing. There is a river in between where they live right now, between Newtok and Mertarvik. Their choice of food will likely change, and where they will live on the mountainside, there are different types of land mammals that you never see here in this city. The difference of living in the hill will definitely bring change in their diet. They will eventually access their river that they're used to once it becomes safe again. Food does exist wherever they reside. In Newtok, it is flat and low-lying, and the small rivers that have access from the lakes bring them fish during the fall and winter seasons. They are also able to set their nets in the rivers. Their food options will definitely not be the same, but when they are able to cross the river safely, that's when they will be able to hunt and fish what they're used to having today. I'm going to ask the other question. Ai pauna apiuti fi makuna challikhluku chat alat anguyaktit khwalluqakin qlkhit paivngat khwani khwa ikayung naqlkhptsni upallkhpchitunginun khwalluqa chat akit paivngayungat upakpailkhpchi upangnaqnginankhptsni jalillu upallkhpchikinngokun chat khwani chimiqnaqat alkhqutni umtunginun
Agumqafi tungin.
fi maufknani tawam aptlhuq chat alat akinqtat.
Okay, chat aking akiuteng khatqa tuumang khatmat
Yeah. Upangnaqlkhpchi lakin akinglkhutchi fi maunrilnguqamak qaillun alat anguyagtat wallsteitat akkiutait ikayut ngot upangnaqlkhptsni.
Ubang naqsamtaqaigani ikayut put matumma akim BI tauna BI mta ikayogluta pinxtutachimituna tawama chatamalkoana toqukkaputa atuumeaqfkanaku Dawam ta ikayu pigarluta ikayuqikut saita umsutalia tinalim tali tam taltoya taunaki kanqluni talia matumma toqungam tatali tunginun illi manna atoqungaq na akhsaqaluku natmakut pitamakut naluki pistiganani talisu yakin tali angoyaktumgiakin state of Alaska tali aki mktali ikayutingshuluta umkhania bim representative Vadani ngamtam chikip khanka ikayung shuluta tawam chalia chiking rakut chalia chiki chatmakuta toqungaputta nunamni qaqit knakia tawnatani chikki qoya naqluni chaknaq tawam chali Tali tikelsungaakut tatpagut atoqungakut tamalkuitapin relaki tali ikayorugiaqluta.
Jolene, ilaqalakutiltaununa ugumappiuttiavai makut state agency salmaikaayoqiaqaakut tauami illat pifknaateng ukuttuaniqartaqalukun piyaimum ikaayoqqaakut salik tenaalim salumikaayoquluta sali hattam salumikaayomaluta suchal Army of Corps of Engineers talikaayomaluta tammai ikaayutam ta illait tawam fiimam kiimittuai aimutuntoi ikaayuquyumiina toihmanna saittamakut saittamakut qaneqeqqait uanikaliikkaniviittanritniluukki talimaaiwankutat taliuna Stanford Actam qaneqeqqaatalwaniga mattimnalliinital maakun slow moving disaster kunsimingnaqsaaqluku toi qaffsiuaqutataim kataagiikuma taakutaisinsit maanikaayu.
To answer question number 2, both Vice President and President provided input identifying the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Denali Commission, the State of Alaska, Representative Don Young, the Housing and Urban Development, Army Corps of Engineers. Those are some of the funding sources that they've received to date. Although they only cover certain things, then they definitely need additional funding. FEMA, what President Charles would like to share, basically reiterating what Mike Walry had said. There's certainly language limitations that have prevented them from helping the tribal community within the Stafford Act. And there needs to be something to address the fact that slow-moving disasters should be covered under the funding available within FEMA.
Thank you. We've got about 15 minutes left, so let me ask if there are other questions from the audience here. I've checked in with Anchorage. There are no questions there. So in the back, please. We'll wait for a microphone.
Am I correct in assuming that you prefer to drink ice melt water and rainwater and cook with that? And if so, will you be able to do so in the new village? And the second question is, where is the village? Is it? You said it was near Tuksuk. Is it in the Nightmute Tuksuk to Nunuk area?
Jiuqliruna beauty upakharluji llitaringlhani huanirpaklpchi maq jikuq nanvamak hualluqa jikutan pilaqait rainwater taukuthuqqaachali atullarchiqaachi upakharluji.
Mairpakwani nunamtniani uksuaqanuatna maqavihtangqallaanaateng qalluni pizzas taukintoi maqtaaqluta toamslamtalia ivlungaqanna ivluumuktalimeng qaqluta toalluutalia nanavaniktalia aqpalluuta niuhtamma uitaam talaattiinikka aqfataqluta nanavanik tammaaya chikuunikka markamtnik. Oh ja, ikania aqaviqumta lunamtstunna ayuqqngaitoqqa maaya iknan bupagviqwania wellartaangslulun martaangsluluni taunallutalia Jimkuma University of Alaska Charlie down to check you look. Dama Aguna ala sakiun kaka pinganta wama ibizirakan na nunam nima iniuhtami ibizirakan rainwater mangtukuta pichasakatalia watering point down at Jalia atuak sukuk sumisu ananabanaka chikun tamay mangkaksadat niuhtami wanika ikani uitawim.
You are correct that they do like to melt ice that they've gotten from their freshwater lakes and utilize rainwater. But once they move over, you definitely rainwater will continue to be captured. But if they're able to access the freshwater lakes, then yes, they would get ice from there. And currently, in their community as it is, they call the watering point the PHS site. And they will have a well that they can access on the new site.
But prior to all of this, the PHS watering point was built in the late 80s, maybe. So if you can imagine, some of the chemicals that go into the water for the turbidity and stuff like that have actually had to be manually employed in the system. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes not. There have been a lot of boiling notices, though, recently, and that's why we prefer the rainwater. There's a lot of times where we do get sick because of the water that is coming out of the PHS. But to your second question, Mertarvik is located 9.5 miles southeast on the Nelson Island. It is actually north of Nightmute and northeast of Tuksuk-Tununuk. And we do have a freshwater well there.
So we have just a couple of minutes left. There's one individual that has not yet spoken, so I do want to give her an opportunity, and she can certainly say no, and that's Catherine Charles. Catherine, do you want to provide any insight, perspective that Jimmy has not already covered? Yes, good. We have a microphone here in the front, please. Thank you.
So they can know how short you are. Thank you.
I have a family back home with children, and I'm always worried, like when the storm comes. And one thing that bothers me is, how will I protect my children if something happens? And that's the one thing. I guess to me that's the only important thing, that we need help for our children. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. I'm glad I asked you to do that.
Mike,
Thank you so much.
May I say that Catherine Charles is the power plant utility manager. And over the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of calling her, but we have a very serious problem as far as utilities here in Newtok. Some of the wires, the overhead wires, well, first of all, the system is a 480 system, 480, and that sort of system is very, very old. The generators that we're currently running, there is one generator that is running the Village of Newtok right now. So, yes, ma'am, it is. Total diesel. No, ma'am, just total diesel. Which brings a couple of questions. In building of the new village and everything, Paul and George were looking into innovative greenhouse energy. to cut down on some of the bills because, as you might have noted, it's almost $8 a gallon over there. And some of these systems, when they break, like the last time, they are so sensitive to water right now that we were waiting for 2 injectors. That almost took 5 days. Now, couple that with temperatures in the 40s and 30s, you have a lot of elders there. You have a lot of kids there. That's some of the challenges that we face here, Mike.
Romy, thank you very much for those, putting a point on it all for us. I want to thank you all for coming here today. I want to thank our friends from Newtok, coming here not only just to speak, but to share such a sensitive and powerful message with us. It's an honor for us to do this. I believe we will likely do this again as we follow this story. But let me provide President Charles the final word on this matter as we close up. Mr. President.
Koya ayuga kanka kumamabit kaisununiuktarum upanganakucha nagmanichugunilkhatnik kaisuntem taring imutun tataring kanikalukuwanik pamktu alwang kutnik niuktakamiunik sali tarnrait nik makunik lutsal ikayos timtnik sali taring yuga taring ilkhitnik sali wanik
President Charles really wants to thank everyone here from the bottom of his heart for allowing this conversation to happen. More importantly, that you have listened to their efforts to relocate to Mertarvik, and for you to have a better understanding of where they stand. You have listened to what they have said. You have seen for yourself the images that is the condition of their community now. And he'd like to thank all the supporting staff and individuals that have helped them to this point.
Thank you. It's been an honor, and thank you all for coming here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.